Gather round, my friends, and let me tell you the incredible story of the Battle of Karánsebes, a historic incident that occurred in 1788 during the Austro-Turkish War. Prepare to be astonished and amazed by the insanity that transpired on that fateful day. The Austrian army was stationed near the town of Karánsebes throughout the fighting. Consider a motley company of troops from several places, each with their own peculiar language and dialect. Consider the following scenario: a true Tower of Babel comprising uniformed Austrians, Germans, Hungarians, and others. One evening, as the sun began to sink below the horizon, a party of Austrian scouts moved out to gather intelligence on the enemy. They had no idea that their adventure would pave the way for one of history's most perplexing errors. As luck would have it, the scouts came across a camp of friendly gypsies who were happily engaging in revelry and raising their glasses aloft in joy. The perfume of food, the sound of laughter, and the clinking of tankards filled the air. It was a spectacle of joyful surrender. Weary from their assignment and attracted by the possibility of fun, the scouts regarded this as a perfect opportunity to join in the celebrations. As they approached the gypsy camp, they screamed in their own dialect, "Halt!" in order to solicit a temporary reprieve from the festivities. Here, dear readers, is where the disaster begins. The scouts' shout of "Halt!" was received with bewilderment by the gypsies, who misunderstood it as an attack from the enemy in their mirthful haze. Chaos ensued as the gypsies, caught off guard, attempted to protect themselves from what they thought was an impending invasion. Meanwhile, the scouts, certain that the feared Turks had arrived, swiftly withdrew to their fellow Austrian soldiers, frantically crying, "Tursi! Tursi!" the name for Turks in their language. Panic erupted as the shout spread like wildfire across the camp, striking dread into the hearts of the Austrian soldiers. Imagine the situation, my friends. Armed soldiers turned their rifles on each other, hacking through their own lines with baffled resolve. The once unified army was now involved in a chaotic conflict with itself, with each man persuaded that he was fighting the enemy, the Turks. But the craziness didn't stop there. In the middle of the chaos, several soldiers misinterpreted the commotion as a retreat order. Fearing for their lives, they abandoned their stations and began a frenzied race to escape the alleged Turkish invasion. Others, with a more opportunistic mindset, took advantage of the confusion to engage in some spontaneous looting, pilfering their own camp for any riches they could discover. As daylight dawned over the devastated battlefield, the entire scope of the disaster became clear. Hundreds of troops lay injured or dead, victims not of the enemy's sword but of their own misguided bravery. There had not been a single Turkish soldier in the combat, leaving the Austrian troops to ponder the insanity of their conduct. The Battle of Karánsebes is a tribute to the power of misunderstanding, cultural variety, and the human proclivity for foolishness. It serves as a reminder that, even in the face of huge battles and wars, the ability for human mistakes and humorous mishaps may convert the theater of war into a theater of the ridiculous. Indeed, my dear friends, the Battle of Karánsebes serves as a cautionary story of misadventure, warning us of the repercussions that might come from misunderstanding and disorder in the fog of battle. It alludes to the fundamental human fallibility that may convert a well-intended attempt into a humorous tragedy. As the dust settled and the cries of pain went away in the aftermath of the conflict, the remaining Austrian soldiers were forced to deal with the consequences of their stupidity. As they bore witness to the devastation they had caused themselves, their visions of triumph and victory gave way to shame and remorse. The tragedy quickly reached the ears of the Austrian commanders, who were taken aback by the ridiculousness of the situation. They couldn't believe their own men had fought an unseen adversary, leaving a path of confusion and self-inflicted wounds in their wake. Attempts were made to bury the tragedy and conceal the humiliating facts from the world. However, as with all stories of folly, the rumors spread like wildfire. Soldiers from other countries who had fought with the Austrians couldn't help but laugh at the bold folly that had occurred at Karánsebes. As the narrative spread via the grapevine, it took on a life of its own, becoming a cautionary tale shared by troops and civilians alike. The Battle of Karánsebes became a byword for misunderstanding and a funny story passed down through the centuries, ensuring that the foolishness of that night was never forgotten. But, among the hilarity and mockery, there was a sobering lesson to be learned. The Battle of Karánsebes is a striking reminder of the price of war, not just in terms of lives lost, but also in the absurdity of its tragedies. It makes us consider the futility of strife and the value of open communication and solidarity in the face of hardship. So, my dear friends, let us remember the Battle of Karánsebes as a monument to the unexpected nature of human foolishness. It serves as a harsh and funny reminder that even under the most dire of circumstances, the theater of war can sometimes devolve into a theater of the ridiculous. May we seek to learn from its mistakes and avoid making similar mistakes in our own attempts. And with that, I wish you farewell until our paths cross again, to share in the delight and wonder of history's strangest stories. Have safe travels, and may laughter accompany you on your voyage.